Hi and welcome to another video where I will be talking about random stuff in my bookish life. Anyway, I'm just gonna start by saying that this week I do not have any book finished. Like seriously, I did not finish any books. But that's fine, I guess. I'm still in the process of reading a few books, and I'm still kind of happy. In fact, I'm really happy about that. And I must say that I have been feeling more joy in juggling a few books, and it has been quite satisfying actually. And at the same time, knowing that it's going to take me quite a while for me to finish these books, but when I do finish them, hopefully, then by the time I finish them, I'll be like finishing many books successively. I suppose. Actually, first of all, I just kind of like want to talk to you about um, what kind of happened this week. I actually had an almost DNF. Actually, I kind of DNF'd this book. But then something about this book, it just kept calling me back to it, and I don't know why. And this book is everyone's favorite Normal People by Sally Rooney. And I don't know, for some reason, after I decided that I don't want to continue with this book, um, I kind of continued it again. Even though I said to myself, oh, I want to DNF it. Um, I guess part of the reason why I kind of did that was because I literally paid 50 ringgit for this book. To be precise, it's 52 ringgit 50 cents. So that's, if you convert that to euro or francs or US dollars, it's not a lot. But for me, it's a lot. So I kind of spent an amount of money getting this book. And somehow, if I don't try to finish it, I feel like I'm wasting my money. I am still at that stage of my reading life where I still can't let go of certain things. So maybe I'm not mature enough when it comes to DNFing. Another thing is that something about this book just makes it feel like I really want to know more about Marianne and Cornell. Like up until the point I read this book, I was until page 34, I think. Um, Nothing much has happened. They were still kind of like having sex, talking to each other, attending parties, I suppose. But nothing much happened, and part of me just feel, uh, you know, like I just want to know what is going to happen to these guys. Like, I want to know, even if the writing is kind of boring. But yeah, let's see how will things go with this book. Um, Enough about this. I'm going to talk about the books that I'm reading right now. But before that, I just want to say that um, lately I kind of have this realization that ever since I started loading my currently reading shelf, kind of like an imaginary shelf, with many books, and I've been juggling like many books at the same time. This is pretty much me trying to go with my own personal sense of excitement. Like I see all of the books around me that I bought that I have not read, and I feel really excited. Before this, I would kind of have this. I used to have this a bit of a bad habit that and that is I would kind of curb my own excitement a little bit. I would try not to make myself feel too much of that excitement, and whenever I feel excited about something, I would just tell myself to, you know, relax first, don't act on it, give it a few days, and then after a few days, then I started to do the things that I was excited about. But the problem with that is, after giving it a few days or some time, my excitement would of course naturally decrease, and eventually it would just kind of die down and I would lose all motivation to do that thing. And this time I'm trying a bit of a different tactic, and that is if I feel excited about something, I'm just gonna do it right away. And so I feel excited about all of the books that I have around me right now, and I feel like I have this kind of like a kind of power over myself that I never had before. And I think this sounds like really cliche, but it feels good. Of course, there's another side to that, and whenever I feel excited about all of these books, when I'm reading them, I can only read one at a time, of course. So what I found is that because I feel so excited about the books that I am currently focusing on, when I read one book, I would actually have this like really naggy excitement inside of me, just burning and wants me to read a different book, read that book, read this book, So it's like my mind is constantly in a state of, oh my gosh, read this, oh my gosh, read that. I mean, that's not something bad that, to complain of, but it's just an observation. So I think it's kind of interesting that that is happening with me. So let's take a look at the books that I'm currently focusing on. And let me tell you, I also have books that I kind of read before that I kind of enjoyed, but I actually did not pick up this week. I'm gonna start with the Victober book that I'm reading right now, and this one is Charlotte Bronte's The Professor. This is kind of like my third Charlotte Bronte book. And now when I think of it, I'm not sure if Jane Eyre counts as my first Charlotte Bronte. I'm not exactly sure if I read the original unabridged version of Jane Eyre. I think I have. One of those really dull looking penguin editions, green colored. I think I have read Jane Eyre. But I was really young back then. I'm pretty sure I did not read it as I, I probably did not have a very immersive experience at the time. But then after that, I read Villette, and that's awesome. And now it's The Professor, and it seems like The Professor is kind of like the male version of Villette. In fact, The Professor was written first, and only after that came out Villette. So I don't know. It seems it's going to be a kind of a quiet book, I think. It's about this guy who is a teacher, I think, who kind of falls in love with one of his pupils. So, yeah, that's that's an interesting premise. The next book I'm reading is a book by Mexican author Juan Rulfo, and this one is Pedro Paramo. I thought that I would be able to finish this book within a few days because of its length, and surprise, surprise, I couldn't. Because this book is kind of interesting. It's about this guy who is trying to look for his father in a kind of like a deserted town that turns out to be inhabited by ghosts. And the whole premise is kind of interesting, so I suppose it should be something that I could devour quickly, but the writing is just a little bit all over the place. It's not all over the place in the sense that it's bad, but it's it takes some focus. That's what I'm gonna say. So this is originally written in Spanish, and it is translated by Margaret Sayers Bedin. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to finish this one this week also. It's kind of like weird to give myself that commitment. Weird considering the fact that this book is pretty thin. Another one that I'm reading currently is a pretty nice book. So I've been reading quite a few bit of a sad-ish book. So I was looking for a happy book, and this one is Barbara Pym's Some Tame Gazelle. And this has been a really, really charming book, really delightful. It's about this pair of siblings, Harriet and Belinda Bede, and they live in this community with the neighbors around them, with the vicar and his wife, uh, and everyone, the neighbors and stuff like that. And this book is kind of like about their day-to-day lives, I think. And I'm not sure how this book is gonna go, but for now it kind of reads like a series, you know. It reads like a mini series, and it's kind of refreshing. It's really funny. It's kind of comic, and I love it. And this is a really lovely read for me. I really enjoy this one so much. Next, I am also involved in one group read and two buddy reads this month, so that is exciting. So I'm gonna start with a group read first. I mentioned this in the previous Bookish avec moi, and this is a group read with organized by Jyotsna. It's for Train to Pakistan, and this is a book written by Khushwant Singh. This book was published, I think, sometime in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. No, this book was published in the 50s. Anyway, so this book, the story takes place during the partition in the history of India slash Pakistan, and it's a short book, but it's kind of punchy, I must say. It's a historical fiction, and it explores the relationship between different communities, namely the Muslim, Sikh, and Hindu communities in a particular village in one part of India near the border between India and Pakistan. So it's really interesting. A lot of kind of like a political and social drama involved in this one. Kind of violent also, you know. So if you are interested in reading this book, you just kind of like, you know, take note that this is going to be a kind of a violent historical fiction. But I think it's kind of nice because it really shows this really ugly picture of how things were at the time. It doesn't try to like really sugarcoat things, and yeah, again, I think this book is really punchy, and I've I've reached halfway into it, and I think has been a pretty good read so far as well. So for the next ones, I have my buddy reads. The first one is actually a buddy read with a booktuber named Shannon from That's So Po, and we are reading this book by Zora, Neale, Hurston, and this one is Their Eyes Were Watching God, and this book is a lovely book. It's a nice one. We are going to read this book for a period of 2 weeks. So currently we have already done our first week check-in, and for the coming week we are going to finish this book. Oh my gosh. So next week you'll hear me saying I finished this book. But anyway, this book is also really nice. It's about this young woman named Janie, and we see her journey as she kind of go through this. She kind of goes through these marriages with different men, and how she matures in the process, and how she kind of finds that sense of empowerment as a woman, especially during her time. I think this one takes place at the turn of the century, turn of the 20th century, I think, when and at the time, the black people in America, they are no longer they are already freed. They are no longer slaves, but they are still having some challenges in their lives as far as social and economical part of their lives are still quite difficult, and that certainly influences the way Janie kind of experience things in lives. But this one is kind of like focus more on her growth as a person, and on her own personal empowerment. And I think that's a really wonderful, you know, it's a really wonderful story, and I really love it. You see a lot of instances where Janie just kind of have this moment of strength, and we also see her in her moments of weaknesses, and overall it's just a lovely, lovely read also. And last but not least is a book that I'm buddy reading with a bookstagrammer, Faye from Solitude of Reading, and this one is by Madeleine Tien, Do Not Say We Have Nothing. So this one is also another historical fiction. So, I mean, I have tons of historical fiction, that I'm currently reading right now. This one is about a young woman who is living in Canada, I think, with her mother. And one day, after they lost the father, and so one day, another young woman came from China because she was kind of involved in the Tiananmen Square demonstration, and so she kind of has this. She's kind of in the this particular difficult situation where she's kind of like an illegal immigrant in the US and Canada, and so she's staying with the narrator and her mother at their place. And it is during that time that the narrator kind of learns a little bit more of the history of her father, of their kind of like their origin, I would say, in China. I'm not sure how to kind of like elaborate on that further because I still don't know what the story is going to be, but this book seems to be dealing with a lot of storytelling. It's going to deal with a lot of narration, narration as a theme, as a motif, and also a little bit of classical music involved in it as well. So, and the setting kind of takes place alternately between current day Canada and also China in the 20th century. Now, I just want to mention that I also have other books that I kind of read before last week, but I did not read it last week because I was so distracted by those other books that I mentioned just now. And the first one is actually kind of important because I actually really enjoyed this book. And this one is How to Be Both by Alice Smith. And this book is about, well, there are two parts in this book. So the first part is about this, it takes place in the current time, and it's about this young woman named George who lost her mother, and she's trying to process her grief through her kind of like newfound friendship with a friend, and some music, some work of arts, and this is just kind of like a story of her trying to process her grief. And the second part of the story is about the Renaissance Italian painter named Francesco, and this is the part that I have not gotten much into. And I must say, to be honest, that part kind of intimidates me because the writing is much, much different. And probably that's why I did not read this, I did not pick it up last week, because the the writing is just so elusive. And I don't know, maybe I'll pick it up again when my mind is much clearer. But I do feel kind of excited to finish this book soon because I do think that this is a good book, and I feel like there is something to discover in that part of the Italian painter's part of the story. So I'm excited to discover more from that, but really the writing is just so scary. And so the next one that I actually read quite a lot, Well, not so much, but still, I was really actively reading this book. Before last week was Emilia Pardova's son. This is The House of Ulua, and this is a book published in the 19th century. It's originally written in Spanish and translated into the English by Paul Opre and Lucia Graves. And this book is about a priest who came to the House of Ulua, where he is supposed to be like managing the house and conduct the religious affairs there. But the thing is, the people who live in the house, especially the Marquis of Ulua, they are kind of like in living the life of debauchery, sexual promiscuity. I'm not sure. I think so. And they drink, and so they pretty much just act naughtily in their lives. So I'm not sure how this story is going to be about, but I kind of stopped reading it because I guess I was just kind of distracted with all of the other books, and I hope to pick this up again, and we'll see what's going to happen. And so this is actually kind of like the first week. Is this the first week? No, this is kind of like the first proper week of October. And so I kind of like wanted to, show you something, because you know how it is with the beginning of a month with me. Paycheck. So what does that mean? Book haul. So I never really done book hauls video. So I don't know, maybe it's time. I just want to show you a little bit of books that I bought recently, and I realized that I kind of bought a little bit more books than I expected to buy. So I think maybe for the rest of the month I'm gonna try to restrain myself. Anyway, I think I got a little bit too excited, so I just kind of like want to share those moments of excitement with you. So I kind of bought a mix of books, and I think they're really exciting. The first two books are the ones that I bought from a physical store at the mall. It was the Popular chain store. Popular is the book retail, one of the book distributor and retail company in Malaysia and Singapore. And so sometimes whenever I go to the mall, I would actually go to the bookstore. I would go to Popular to just kind of hang out there. Most of the time I don't buy the books. I just hang out there to unwind and walk around the shelves and see the books on the shelves and imagine how great it would be to actually buy those books, but I wouldn't. But that day I bought a couple of books, and so the first one that I bought was this book by Japanese author Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and this one is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. And I think this is a pretty new book. This one was translated from the Japanese by Jeffrey Trussello. So Before the Coffee Gets Cold it's kind of about this cafe in Japan, I think, where people can go in and enjoy their coffee, and I think it also allows them to time travel. And when I saw that, I did not continue further. I instantly got interested in it. No, I did not instantly buy it because I actually knew about this book even before that, but I was kind of trying to restrain myself. So finally I got this. And I kind of like how the premise sounds. And the next book that I got is also a translated work, and this one was originally in Korean. It's Kim Ji-young, Born 1982. This book is really famous. A lot of people talk about this book this year. This one is by Cho Nam-ju, and this book was translated by Jamie Chang. So this book was published in Korea, I think, in the year 2016, and it was translated in the year 2018. So Kim Ji-young, Born in 1982, is kind of like about this woman who is living in Korea and how her life is kind of, I would say, stifled by the expectations, I think, of the society and her family and No, just pretty much it's about this lady's identity as a woman in modern Korea, being a woman in Korea, because it kind of comes with certain rules and ideals and expectations, and it's a really interesting book, and I really like also how the premise sounds, and I'm really interested in reading this one. So next one are books that I bought from Instagram used booksellers. So this one I bought from the Instagram account bookgila.my, and I got two, which is really fun. And the first one is by Vladimir Nabokov. This is Pale Fire. And I think in one of my videos before, I think it was one of the tag videos, I kind of mentioned that I did not enjoy Lolita at all. So that was the only Nabokov book that I read. And it would sound weird why I would want to read another one by Nabokov. And I also don't know why. Maybe it's because sometimes when I don't enjoy a work by a particular author, I would tend to kind of like want to try more by that author. So I ended up picking up Pale Fire. But then I kind of realized that Pale Fire has a peculiar writing style. And so I don't know what I just got myself into. So this one is, it is going to be written in a form of poem, I think. It's certainly interesting, but I'm not sure how I am going to handle that. So we'll just see how things go. And next one is a book by an author that I just read last month, Kyung Suk Shin, and so I read I'll Be Right There, and so I got Please Look After Mother. So this book was originally written in Korean, and this one was translated by Chi Young Kim. So Chi Young Kim was also the translator for The Hen Who Dreamed She Could Fly, written by Sun Mi Hwang. Oh my gosh, now I can literally remember the translator's name and what they did. See how much I paid more attention to translators now. So this book is about this. It's kind of like a family fiction, and I think, not sure what exactly kind of happens, but I think the mother just disappears one day, and the family are kind of desperately searching for her. And so in the process, they kind of found out more stuff about the mother, I guess, the family, and it's all gonna be full of relationship stuff, I think. Domestic fiction, all crazy stuff like that. So moving on, I actually went to the bookstore called Bookxcess that just opened earlier this year in Johor Bahru. I kind of had a video about me going to that bookstore. I think I posted it in March, I think, when I just started booktubing. So if you want to check that out, you could probably check that out. I'm going to put the link down below anyway, so you could try that. But anyway, I went there, and it's a big bookstore. So if you saw that video, you'll know that that bookstore is huge. So there are a lot of books there, and I kind of bought more than I intended to. So I'm just kind of like go through some of these books that I bought quickly. And the first one that I got is The Emperor's Children by Claire Massoud. And so this one, it's this one is one of those books that I can't really summarize in short sentence, because I don't really exactly know what it is going to be about, what's the core idea going to be based on the blurb. So let me just read it a little bit. Danielle and Marina and Julius are young, bright New Yorkers living at America's beating heart in the early years of the 21st century. They've been friends since college, but the bonds between them have loosened as their lives, loves, and ambitions have taken each down a different path. The arrival of Marina's cousin Budi, fresh from the provinces and keen to make his mark. I'm not sure if I pronounced that name correctly, uh, forces them to confront their desires and leaves them dangerously exposed. And then on September 11th, 2001, the whole world shifts. So, yeah, that's it. Next one that I got is an NYRB. So this one is During the Reign of the Queen of Persia by Joan Chase. This one is another domestic fiction, and I think it's going to be about this family in Midwest America in the state of Ohio, I believe, and it's going to focus on 3 generations of women. So I think, you know, that's my stuff. I like that. It sounds like my kind of stuff. So interesting. And so let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, even more domestic fiction. So this one is a popular fiction just released and really popular. Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. And I am also to be honest, I don't really know much about what the book is going to be about. There is a series for this book also, and a series adaptation for it, which I'm not watching. But I'm kind of interested to read this book also because apparently it's really popular. A lot of people gave good comments on this book, so I'm interested. I'm really interested. I read Annie Prue recently, and I just got another of her short story collection, and this one is her first one, I think. This one is Heart Songs, and her first stuff. Oh my gosh. I'm not sure which one came first, postcards or this one. But anyway, this is like kind of her earlier work, so I'm really excited. Another one I'm really excited about is this book, which I wanted to get before, but when I saw it at the catalog and I decided to click on it, it was already snagged away by some other people. So this one is Carson McCullers. This is The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. And this book is supposedly this brilliant debut by a young author. And that already kind of sounds interesting. So it's going to be about this John Singer, the story of a John Singer, a lonely deaf mute, and a disparate group of people who are drawn towards his kind, sympathetic nature. Ooh, intriguing. Okay, so this is kind of like the last book that I want to show. Actually, I bought more, but I'm not going to talk about all of that. You could probably try and check out my Instagram account. I also do not share all of my book hauls in there, but there are some books that I'm not mentioning here that I shared there. So if you are interested, you can check it out. So this one is Red Sorghum by Moyen. And Moyen is actually one of the writers that I've always been interested to read. So this one is a historical fiction taking place in 20th century China, and it's going to be also a domestic fiction. Oh my gosh. So it's like all of the stuff that I like. It's going to be a story involving 3 generations of one family who have to endure the brutal and turbulent years of China's revolutionary history. And I guess that's what the blurb says, and it's not specific, but it's interesting enough. So anyway, this is a pretty long Bookish avec moi video, but it also kind of doubles as a book haul video, which I seldom do, and I hope you enjoy that. And I certainly enjoy that. I mean, I enjoy the buying more, but I kind of enjoy talking about it also. But anyway, so I guess that's it for this video so far, and I'll see you again in another one. So until then, take care. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.